Huh. So, figuring stuff out right now. This is my first time actually like recording anything, but I did want to start doing some like a rant style videos just to express what I have going on inside my brain a little bit more. So, like I said, this is the first time I'm recording anything like this. My mic is going to be probably shit, sound horrible, a lot of background noise. I'll try to get that figured out later once I figure out once I watch this back, figure out what exactly is coming through, mess with the mic balance a little bit, figure that stuff out. And also, I'm not used to doing stuff with the camera either, so if I'm not like looking at the camera and stuff, like I have to get more used to that and uh just everything as a whole. I mean, the lighting looks pretty decent. I think I got the camera set up pretty well. I would like a better angle than this. Like, it looks nice, but I feel like it could be better. I'm a perfectionist, so it's always gonna be a problem in some way. Nothing's ever really gonna get perfect, so that's why I thought, fuck it, why not? Initially, I was gonna try to like type all of this down, but I really hate trying to get everything in my brain out into words, let alone words, and then trying to get that typed out even is a lot fucking harder because I feel like my brain moves at 1,000 words per minute. I can understand like immense concepts with just like 2 words would be said in my brain, and I already know like 1,000 words in 2 words in my brain. Like it's very confusing, hard to explain that even, and it's hard to talk and use concepts and just like keep flow of time, like keep flow of the conversation or just what I'm thinking in general. Trying to like talk with somebody, it's already hard doing that, and putting that into words, like texting, typing that out, it's even harder for me because like you have to like jump around and like try to shorten everything because like no one wants to read just paragraphs and paragraphs and like basically an entire book of you just trying to explain every minute detail. Plus I have ADHD, so I'm going to go on tangents and everything, lose track of time, and everything is going to be completely horrible. So I thought it'd be better to just make videos on things that I need to talk about from now on to cause less stress and be better for me in general. Because I mean, we'll see how it goes. I have faith in it. I think it'll be good. But enough with all of that, all the pre stuff, the things before the actual thing, me ranting before I even start the fucking rant. What I wanted to talk about might be triggering for a lot of people, so I'm gonna give disclaimers, trigger warnings, and everything right now. So if you have any problems with like death, grief, like it's gonna be like heavily centered around just the concept of death and the afterlife, or not necessarily afterlife, but like just stuff like existentialism, basically anything regarding existentialism. Like if you experience existential dread, if you have a problem with like, if you're going through something regarding death or grieving and things right now, it's probably going to be very tough for you, and I completely understand that. So I would highly suggest people going through like depression and like very serious things to be very careful and use your utmost discretion when you decide if you want to continue watching or not. With that being said, I'll try to remember exactly where my brain went when I was going on this tangent and everything. This isn't going to be scripted. This isn't scripted at all, so it's a bit all over the place. I'm going to be bouncing all over the place, especially with the ADHD and everything. So I apologize in advance. I'll try to make it as coherent as possible. Yeah, so fuck it. Let's take a place and then spiral. Try to see if we can encapsulate everything we thought of without doing that. Editing is gonna be a bitch if I decide to do that, like 100%. I keep looking up there because that's where I can see myself. So I'm gonna try to, okay, focus. So earlier today, while I was at work, I just got off work a little bit ago. Decided to do this. Earlier when I was at work, I was looking into just the symptoms and not symptoms, but like experiences of other people going through like DMT and stuff and experiencing like higher consciousness, altered brain states due to psychedelics and stuff like that. And like for me, I think DMT would be the safest out of all of the psychedelics and like the most like doesn't really have any negative side effects as long as like you're doing it properly, you're not being dumb as fuck, and ideally you'd have someone with you that you trust completely while it's happening to take care of you. But honestly, just the way my mental state is, all the trauma I have, all the undiagnosed mental illness I have, I wouldn't want to do just any psychedelic. I've did like my heavy research. I've had friends who've done damn near everything under the sun, seeing how they've reacted, how they're affected by those things. I want to say heavily that I generally, the only thing I've had is like alcohol and marijuana. I don't think I'd actively want to do anything outside of that except for DMT, as I've said previously in my life. That's one that I feel would be one that I'd want to try, especially being Buddhist and very spiritual. It just speaks to me in a way. And that being said, I say that to say this. A big chunk of my trauma comes from this one experience I did have back in, I think, 2018, senior year of high school. I wasn't really into like smoking or anything, so after like my swim season and stuff like that, I agreed with my friends that I was gonna go out and like smoke with them and stuff like that. I didn't realize that you had to stay hydrated. I didn't even realize I was dehydrated at the time, but I decided to go all out because when I usually do things impulsively or things that I want to do, been waiting for, I usually go all out. I didn't know there was a thing as too much weed, too much marijuana. I found that out very quickly because being a lightweight already, well, I didn't know I was lightweight at the time, but being a lightweight, I made the bad decision to smoke the entire blunt and everything by myself, and it descended into horribleness pretty quickly. My anxiety got extremely heightened and everything, and I got ended in a panic attack, and that panic attack was even more heightened by the marijuana effects and everything, and I was stuck in my head. Like all these different things were just going completely wrong. I was dehydrated. That was making it worse. So the panic attack ended up, like, I'm not gonna do the entire story. Maybe I'll do another video of like exactly what happened and like everything I can remember from that, because that's if I just wanted to talk about that situation alone, it'd be an extremely long video that I'd have to do on its own, because it basically ended in me going into a state of psychosis, it seems, But through more research over time and researching on like different things that happen to people in that state, um pause, back up a little bit. During all of that was happening, I passed out, was hyperventilating, panic attack and everything. Everybody was freaking out, and I passed out at a point. Everyone was really worried, so they called an ambulance. And when the ambulance got there, like, they were taking care of me all up until then. They were taking care of me all up until the ambulance got there. When the ambulance got there, they rushed me to the hospital and stuff. But during that entire time of rushing me to the hospital and like getting me there, realizing I was dehydrated, giving me an IV drip, and trying to figure out, because the paramedics were like yelling at me like, oh my god, what did he take? Did he take pills? What was he doing? Oh, what kind of drugs are you guys taking? Blah blah blah. Is it meth, heroin? I'm just like, everybody's trying to like, no, he's a good kid, he wouldn't do any of those, we didn't do that, we just smoked. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong and everything, couldn't figure out why I kept passing out. Apparently during that entire time, my heart stopped like 2 times, so I died a few times and came back. And during that story, if I ever tell it, I remember vividly, or not vividly, but like I know exactly at what point, and like all the hallucinations and like psychosis and like mental things that I was going through while perceived to be unconscious or having a seizure at times, that happened. Like everything that was going on internally in my brain, I remember the exact moments that when they said my heart stopped, when I was like not there anymore, if that makes sense, when I was gone. I remember those points somewhat. But regardless of the fact, that's the situation that happened. Big chunk of my trauma, where that comes from. After doing all the research trying to figure out what happened, because we just smoked weed, like I said, even though it was hella heightened mental disorders and things like that to contribute to that, I've done studies and found, I don't know if it's fully true or not, but it seems to be the case, that DMT gets released into your body when you die. And that's why people, like, when they have near-death experiences or like come back from the dead, they always have these crazy stories about like, oh, I saw this, blah blah blah, I've experienced this, because like you have DMT released in your body naturally by every living organism, if I'm not mistaken, that happens to when they die. And so I assume that's what the majority of that was as well. But because of that, because I wasn't ready for any of it, and like no one's ready to die at all usually, it resulted in a very bad trip, or very confusing trip, especially with everybody around me panicking, trying to figure out what's going on. It wasn't the greatest, was not the greatest whatsoever. And I'm trying to stop myself from trying to explain everything that happened there, because I'm just going to keep going, getting losing track of what I want to do. But yeah, it wasn't the greatest, but because that's what I think happened, like it's the most logical thing that could have happened in my opinion, because it was a very bad experience, but it was very enlightening though. I wouldn't have changed it. Like if I could go back now and change that, I would not have changed that fact, because it's made me into the very spiritual, very like connected, open-minded person that I am today. I wouldn't change that for anything. I love who I am, even though like everybody Everybody always has their like negative opinions about themselves and everything like that, and obviously there's things I can work on. That nobody's perfect. I'm nowhere near perfect, but yeah, I wouldn't change that for anything because I think it was a really good experience, very eye opening. I dealt with a lot of things, seen a lot of things while going through that, but overall it was a very traumatizing experience. But I feel like if I did it in the correct way, or had like a DMT experience in the correct way, the proper way, the quote unquote proper way, with like a guide, or maybe just like a person I trust, and them taking care of me for those 3 hours while I'm going through the trip, that it'd be a completely different type of eye opening and another experience, and like something that'd make me grow even further than what already happened. So that was the initial thing that I was thinking earlier today while I was at work. That spiraled into that whole situation, and that really made me like extremely dissociated. And like when I came back, I've had this like sense of acceptance with death. Like I find it comforting in a way, like longing for it. Like I want to be on the other side very badly, like extremely bad. Like it's not suicidal or anything. I just find it extremely comforting. Like it's home in a sense, like home. And it's very hard to express that fully to anybody, because if I'm trying to tell that to anybody that like I'm close to or I love, or anything like loved ones and stuff like that, friends, family, they're obviously not going to want to even hear that, because obviously it's talking about death, which more than 99% of humans already have intense feelings and emotions about death in general, which is completely warranted, and I understand that. But it's like I can't express myself how I want to, in fear of how they're gonna react or think about me, or think I'm suicidal or something, and want to put me, because I'm not suicidal. But even that concept that like I don't want to be here, and knowing that I have people who do love me, or people that I take care of somewhat, or care about very deeply, like my younger siblings and stuff like that, my family members, or people that just love me in general, knowing that I don't want to be here, I know how that would make them very uneasy. Some might start pulling away, some might say, and it's like they have in the past, unfortunately. But I it's understandable. So that's why I try not to bring that up with people that like I want to get closer with, or like have like a loving, unconditional, platonic or otherwise relationship with. But that also made me think that has to be the reason why I don't want kids either, because bringing life into this world, and nobody bringing life into this world and creating that deep attachment from the kid to you, like growing up, and obviously they're going to have the general sense of existential dread and like fearing death and everything and stuff like that. For them to see me, and if they ever get to the point where like, oh, he doesn't want to live, how that's gonna affect them and traumatize them, and just the issues that are going on with that. Or like, if like, it's very hard for me to want a relationship or be in a relationship right now currently for the same reasons, because like it's very I'm just very detached and like not necessarily yearning, but just not fitting in and wanting to not exist anymore. Not in like a depression way, not in a just like, oh, everything sucks, because like the world does suck, but it's not in that way. It's just like it feels like home, it feels comfortable to me, and it's very hard. Like I don't think I've met anybody who understands that, so it's really hard to relate to people anymore. I've realized since I've came back from the other side, I'd say it's really hard to find somebody that I can fully relate to, which brought up another thought that like that's probably why I'm so attracted to, so drawn to other extremely broken individuals, like traumatized people, people with intense depression, anxiety. Like part of it is also because like I'm a huge psychology nerd, and it's like I fucking love everything having to do with psychology and like all of that and all the mental disorders I have undiagnosed as well, because I've never been to therapy, unfortunately. Um, that is probably part of the reason why I'm heavily drawn to those people, I've realized. And it sucks because I understand those people very well. Can't say 100% because you can never understand anybody 100%, but I feel like I understand the most traumatized, the most depressed, the most anxious people, and I'm so drawn to them. And they understand that. They're like, oh my God, he actually understands. And like it gets to the point where like I understand so much about them, but it's so hard for them to understand me and where I'm coming from, because I still have depression and anxiety, even though I can't really feel it all that much until it like blows up in my face, because I'm completely dissociated and everything's numb most of the time, unless it's like very intense feelings. But I usually get very attached to them. We develop a very strong relationship and everything, and I get like I understand everything, and then it gets to a point where like they're like, okay, I've only scratched the surface on you, but it's getting a little bit unnerving because I like it's like everybody makes the jokes like when you're mentally ill about like, oh my God, death. Like they make jokes surrounding death all the time. I'm not gonna go into that for traumatic reasons, and like I don't want to trigger anybody on that front, but very traumatized people, very mentally distressed people make a lot of jokes about that. And the fact that I'm making those jokes with them, and like I understand because I've been in their position too, but like a piece of me doesn't really see it as a joke and kind of just wants to be on the other side, because I feel like I would feel at home there, and I've experienced stuff outside of this life. Like when I was going through the things I went through with my big traumatic event, like it's as if when I was unconscious or like dead or whatever, I experienced like an unknown amount of time there, like way longer than I've lived here. And while I was there, I like that became normal. It became natural. Like I can vividly remember, or not remember, just feel the length of time I was there, and it just felt like, I can't even say like years and years. It just felt like an endless amount of time I was there, and then I came back, and then everything was just like disillusioned. Like I didn't really forget anything. I had, like, obviously it's like it's only been a few hours, and like you're back in your body and everything. Like, oh, okay. And it's like a weird feeling, like you been through so much on the other side, and like an endless amount of time you spent over there in such a short amount of time here, apparently. And then when you go back, it's like, I don't fit in anymore. I don't understand anybody. I understand everybody, but like, I don't understand in a way. Like, me being a psychology nerd, I understand logically why people think and act and behave in the way that they do. But it's so foreign to me. It's just like, how can you be so unempathetic? How can you be so just like how can you care about life so much? Like, you claim you care about life so much, about living things so much. You cherish life, supposedly, and then you completely disregard when, like, you see certain people, I'm not saying all, but like wars and like people getting killed and stuff like that, or like when someone's going through something, or someone's starving, someone's crying, you just completely disregard that and like, it's whatever. It's not me, so why should I care? Like, that's still a living thing. That's still, like, it's painful to see, and the majority of people are like that. They have a us versus them, or me versus everybody else mentality. And if it's not someone they love, why should they care about them? Even if it's an entire country of people, of innocent people, even if it's just like a neighborhood over, or people in like hoods, ghettos, the projects. It's just like, it's not anybody I know. It's not me. It's not my loved one. So why should I care? And literally everybody, no matter where they come from, has some sense of that, and like how they just operate in normal life, let alone how just humans in general think they're superior to every other being in existence. Apparently they're just like, oh yeah, humans, we're at the top, every other living thing doesn't matter. And like animals, they'd feel nothing killing an animal. Like, I understand we eat them and stuff like that, but, and I still do too. I'm no vegetarian, I'm no vegan and stuff. I still eat meat. I do want to get to the point where I don't eventually, but me being how I am now, being poor and everything like that, you can't really do that. Healthy food costs so much. It costs an arm and a leg to be healthy in this economy, in this society. So that's not really an option for me. But it's just, anything that's not human, they completely disregard. It's like, oh, it's irrelevant if they die, blah blah blah, unless it's like your pet or something, and then you're gonna be distraught. But if it's like, I don't know, just any animal that's not human. And you can't even say that, because like I said earlier, if it's not something that they personally love, someone that they personally know, they're just gonna be like, it's not me, it's not my people, so why do I care? And I just find that like, so why? I don't understand why, like, and it sucks. Like, it's hard to explain to just anybody. Some people understand it and like, oh yeah, I agree with you. And then I see them doing the exact same thing. Like, they no compassion for people that they don't know, and just assumptions, like heavy assumptions. Like if you see like a homeless person, like, oh, they're just not working hard enough, and I'm just like, there's so many layers to that. There's so many layers to that. You can't just say that without even knowing the person. You can't just say that. And even if they were homeless and they were just being lazy, at that point, there's so much there. Like they're homeless, they're probably extremely mentally distressed. They're going through so much, and like they have so many mental roadblocks, so many mental barriers to be able to get over to be able to even begin functioning normal in society. And nobody wants to take the push to help those people. And if they do, they don't have enough funds, or the government might try to fucking stop their efforts, or like capitalism might try to stop their efforts. Some bigger corporation might buy them out and be like, oh yeah, we're going to uphold the values of what you started and stuff, and completely run it to the ground, or something along like that. Like make a non-profit into a profit, or people might do it under the guise of like caring, and then turn around and just want to profit from it. And it's like only want to profit from it. Like it, I mean, it is the capitalist system we live in today. And I realize I'm going on another tangent, so I'm gonna try to go back to where I was going originally with all of this. But yeah, so like the concept with death and everything, it's very hard to speak how I want, and my just distress for being here in general, not necessarily due to mental health. I think it could be. It could be. I might not know for sure, but just wanting to exist, not exist anymore, and be on the other side. It's very interesting to me, because there's no bad feelings behind it. There's no malice. There's no sadness. There's no mad. Like, no anger. It's just, I don't feel at home here anymore. And it just causes a disconnect to everybody that I interact with at this point. Like, I feel like a complete alien at this point. Nobody understands me, and it's so hard to even get anybody to understand like just a little bit of me at this point anymore, I find. And it's very distressing, I feel like. And like I wrote earlier like a metaphor that is kind of like, it's like after I came back, I kind of just like got dropped into a zoo where I'm the only observer, the only like person walking around looking at the exhibits. And I know all of the exhibits that are going on. Like I have a little map. I'm like, oh my God, okay, that's them. And I understand that, probably due to my psychology, but like I understand why they act this way. I understand their needs. I understand their wants. I understand their innate drive to do whatever that they're doing. Blah blah blah. And I'm walking around looking. We can make eye contact. I can see these different species, these different everything, and they're like looking back at me, and they're looking like, oh, what's this weird two-legged thing looking at me right now? And they just go back to interacting with the other people that are like them and doing what they want to do, doing what they need to do, doing all of that. And I'm just kind of walking around by myself, nobody else like me in sight. And I'm just kind of like, oh, well, it's like, yeah, like I'm just observing everything. And things can look back at me, but they don't understand or even want to understand, because like they get disinterested after a while, and go back doing what they're doing, going back to like the people that are like them, and I'm just kind of like, shit, where can I go home? Like that's basically like, it's just like, well, I don't know what to do anymore. I just want to go home, you know. And like I said, I feel like that's the reason why I don't want kids to bring somebody to the world, let alone like a bunch of other reasons why I don't want kids, being like the world is so shitty and stuff like that. But like, I feel like I'm so disconnected that if I do bring something that is reliant on me being here, me loving them, I feel like I might emotionally traumatize them in some way, because I know humans innately aren't meant to have that desire or be okay with the concept of death. Like they're meant to do anything to keep surviving, keep existing, keep recreating, procreating life, like having children, and be distraught when someone they love dies. Like when I was in college, I was stranded in college. I couldn't come back home and stuff like that. I was 2 hours out, didn't have a car, didn't have anybody and everything, and was just working. This was after the big traumatic thingy happened, so I was already kind of just out of it, kind of just going through what felt like just ostracization, feeling of being ostracized to like the entire world basically. And I was trying to like find my place. It was only a few months after that incident occurred. But while I was in college, in September, I think, of 2018, a bunch of death happened in my family. And so my grandpa died, and he basically raised me for like since I was like 8, along with my grandma and my brother. I lived with them until basically I went off to college. He passed away. My father figure, before I was living with them, the person that like raised me from like my formative years to like when I was like 10 or something, then some other stuff happened with him. But my grandpa, the guy who was like a father figure to me, basically my younger siblings' actual father, and my youngest brother all died in the same month, while I couldn't go back home and was just stuck at college. And for some reason, I knew I didn't feel any like intense distress or grief about that. Like I was obviously like super sad that they're not with us anymore, and like I understood what everything meant and everything, but it's like I innately knew that it's just they're on another plane of existence right now. Like it's not the end. It's not like they're where you want to be. Like it's fine. Everything's gonna be fine. Like I understood that immediately, and I didn't really go through any forms of grief, really. And for the longest, until like now, like thinking about everything, I thought that like it was just extremely suppressed, and I just wasn't processing anything. And maybe that is still true. Maybe that's still true. Maybe I'm just reaching for things, and I don't know. It doesn't feel like I am. It doesn't feel like I am, because like I said, I feel like I'm completely fine with the concept and everything, which I find only happens in like those who are like extremely spiritual or have been through intense trauma and just don't necessarily value their lives a lot of the time, unfortunately. But yeah, so that all happened, and I I just never really went through any form of grief or distress from those specifically. And then recently, one of my cats that I raised from like a very small kid, like she was prematurely given away, I think, and I immediately took her in and was like, okay, I'm taking care of her because I don't trust anybody else to be taking care of her in my household, unfortunately, because previous things happened. But I took it upon myself to raise her and everything, and like I bought her milk and everything, and bottle fed her up until she could start eating normal food. She started eating normal food, grew up, and like I got attached really bad. And then she got in a car crash. She got let outside and got in a really bad accident. I can't say car crash because like we still don't know what happened. We're not gonna know what happened at this point. But got in a very bad accident, came back in the house and was extremely just messed up, like very, like had a lot of injuries, and I was begging my family members to take them to the vet and stuff. Because at the time I didn't have money, I didn't have transportation, but I was working, and even if I did have the money and transportation, I still wouldn't have been able to do it because like I was working all the time, Monday through Friday. Nothing's open on the weekends, and they just didn't. They didn't take them ever. In like a year, like a long time passed, and then they just took them very recently because I was like, look, please take them, I will pay for everything. I like at this point I had the money, but I didn't have the time because like I still worked a lot and couldn't actually do anything. But I begged them, was like, please take them, I'll pay for everything. And they agreed. They took them, and the doctor's like, okay, yeah, at this point we can't really do anything, we have to put them down because they're going to be in extreme pain. We can do surgery on them, it's going to cost thousands of dollars, but it's not guaranteed to fix anything. And even if it did work, they're still going to be in extreme pain constantly, so it's best to just put them down. They got put down, and I was very distraught, but it wasn't in a way to where like I was sad that they were gone. Like I was obviously very sad that they were gone, and like like I was mad because like it was avoidable, and my family just kind of treated it as like, oh, it doesn't really matter because like it's just a cat, it's not a human. Like it doesn't really matter. And even before that, it's like if your kid was like got in an accident or something, you would take them to the hospital to kind of minimize the damage and fix whatever's wrong. But it took them a really long time to even consider that being an option until it was too late. And that was what hurt me. Just like this all could have been avoided, and I couldn't do anything about it. And so that gets to me. I wouldn't say it's necessarily grief at the death itself. It's just grief in the fact that like I felt very helpless, and other people just saw it as like, oh, there's just like they didn't want to do anything about anything. You know, like they didn't value what was going on in a sense. And then I'm like, I just see that in everybody everywhere. They just don't care about anything that's not something that they love very deeply, that's human. And like I love seeing the people that are extremely attached to their animals and stuff, like would do anything for their animal, blah blah blah. But I think I just care in a way that's not supposed to be natural for people, because like I know we have the like mob mentality ingrained into humans and stuff like that, and like our tribe versus theirs and stuff, like us versus them, and it's like if it's not your loved ones, then why should we care about them? We should just take their resources, take all that they have, and that's it. Like, just don't care. And I just, in almost every aspect, I feel like I'm just not, like, I just don't relate to anything or anyone. And every time I find somebody who kind of starts relating to me on like a deeper, sometimes spiritual, sometimes just like morals and values level, there's always something where it's just like, that's very unempathetic. Like, what, like, how can you even say that? That, like, that's so fucked up. And like I said, I'm not saying I'm perfect or anything. I'm not saying I'm perfect, because I probably have things that other people think that about me too. But yeah, I don't know. But the main thing I was trying to get at is I find it very interesting and weird that I kind of long to be on the other side. And I heard that that's like sometimes a common thing when people who die and come back, they like long to go back to the other side, and just, they don't necessarily fit anymore. They just have very, like the world's view, what normal humans think, is just very limited in how they operate. And it's like, it feels like there's so much more, and then back here it's like just a sliver of what's going on, and you're just like, nothing's the same, you know? It's just, it's hard to explain. It's very hard to explain. But yeah, these are some of the things that like I have problems expressing to loved ones, to friends and stuff, because like I know it's going to make them extremely uneasy. It's going to give them existential dread, and I wish that feeling on nobody, because I've felt that previously in my life as a young kid, even up until my late teens, like intense existential dread and just the fear of the unknown and stuff like that. You know, I think it 100% is like, I feel like the fear of the unknown, and like just not being able to wrap your brain around infinity and not knowing what's going to be there. But experiencing it and then coming back, even if I can't like fully articulate what I went through on the other side, because it just felt like such a long time, like way longer than I've even existed here, which is even already hard to wrap your brain around. Like, it's just a feeling, and like I understand it, but it's hard to explain it. And yeah, it's hard to relate to loved ones, or not relate, because I relate to all of my loved ones and everything, especially like the, like when I get attached or attracted to traumatized or depressed or anxious individuals, because like I see pieces of myself in them and I understand them, and they know that, but it's very hard to get other people to understand me. without driving them into an intense sense of existential dread a lot of the times. And it sucks because I want people to understand me. I want to be seen. And it's like no one understands or wants to understand because they get that feeling of, oh, this is making me uneasy. And I don't really know what to do about that. Hopefully, I can meet more individuals who've had experiences similar to mine or feel the way I do, so I can have like a board to bounce thoughts, ideas, feelings off of, and them being able to relate and understand what I'm talking about and coming from. Because it is very hard to maintain relationships when you know so much about them and then they look back at you and they're just like, I barely know who you are. Like, I know you, but I don't know you. And then they can tell like I'm holding back on saying a lot, but it's hard to let them know that like I'm doing that because I don't want them to feel the eventual dread and deep anxiety and depression and stuff that like my conversation would get them. I think that's why a lot of people hate philosophy as well, because it starts to dabble into like the existentialism and stuff like that and different concepts, and they're just like, what the fuck is going on? I can't wrap my brain around this. This is making me feel like I'm in the deep ocean and at midnight I can't see below my legs and I felt something like touch my fucking foot or some shit and I can't. It's just hard. It's just hard. But yeah, due to the ADHD or undiagnosed ADHD, I feel like I'm not even gonna say undiagnosed ADHD. Due to my brain, I feel like I missed so many different things that I wanted to touch up on because I don't remember exactly everything my mind went through in the past few hours. I was trying to hit all the points that I may have went through, but in order to do that, I'm probably going to have to like start the video when my brain starts spiraling and then go from there, because I definitely did spiral a lot during this, even the things that I didn't think about before. But I definitely didn't touch upon things that I thought about before that led me to even deeper places. Because like I have that feeling in my stomach that I missed a lot, but I don't know what. But yeah, DMT. I'm thinking of heavily trying that because I was also reading a little bit earlier today that DMT has positive effects for people with depression, anxiety, PTSD. Not been like tested extensively, but all the research they've gotten so far suggests a lot of positive things, although you should definitely take it in the presence of either someone who, like a shaman who's practiced it, understands the doses, understands the signs, negative signs that might happen and stuff, and be able to take care of you properly, or like a medical professional who's doing like very closely studied trials of like doctors and stuff nearby, than to just go at it, because that's the easiest way to end up in a situation where you don't want to be in, as I have with that first experience. Because like I wasn't even like wasn't something that I even knew could even happen at that point. So like I'm not saying it's my fault or anything, I'm not saying it's anybody's fault, it's just what happened, unfortunately and fortunately. But I don't know. I know I'd love to be like, being a psychology nerd, I'd love to be part of a trial that did tests of ayahuasca, DMT, and the effects that would have on different mental illnesses, because my brain is extremely fucked up and very traumatized. So I'm just interested in how that would affect me going in again or going in. So yeah. I hope anybody who watched this didn't go through too much, didn't get triggered too much, or go through any intense existential dread or anything like that, or if I caused an episode or anything or something really bad, I'm very sorry. It was not my intention. I just needed to express how I felt, my experiences that I've been going through, and a little background information as well to like support my experiences, just like what's been going on, giving you like a broader idea of just what's in my head in general, if that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know, looking back, like, or rewatching this, once I rewatch this could all sound like the ramblings of a fucking madman. I could already have lost it. I don't fucking know, to be honest. I still feel like I'm extremely coherent and like I'm expressing myself in a coherent manner and everything, but never know you're insane until you're insane, and you might not know you're insane even if you're insane. So I don't know. I don't feel insane just yet. I don't feel insane just yet. So yeah. Moral of the entire video, not necessarily moral, but basically what I wanted to say, I think I got a bit into it. I just wanted to get my emotions out about death and why I think I feel very drawn to it. Like every time I go to sleep or think about just trigger warning after death, like that long, intense, not intense, the long just sleep or just constant dreaming or going on different journeys and stuff like that, or just what I've experienced during that, and just like sleep in general, you know, like sleep is a cousin of death and stuff like that. It just, like, I sleep a fucking lot, and it just brings me so much fucking comfort. I think that's why a lot of mentally ill people always sleep a lot, because it brings them comfort. And yeah. So I'm gonna stop now, because I could just keep talking forever and ever, and I already feel like this has been extremely long, so I don't want to have to edit that much. I'm probably not gonna edit this shit. I'm probably just gonna fucking like post this up on YouTube, send it a few places, and maybe make it public after a while. But I definitely want to do more like this, because it feels like I can express better when I'm talking instead of trying to type it out. Because when I'm trying to type it out, it drains the fuck out of me. Either talk with somebody or just like this, just a video where I'm just ranting, talking by myself about whatever decides to go through my brain, what I decide to ramble about. Those that did watch this, I really hope like you enjoyed it. I really hope you understand a bit more about me, because God knows I need more people to understand me more, instead of me just kind of being that friend, that therapy friend that will go dozens of miles in their shoes to completely understand them, and then feel like they don't understand me at all, and then stop talking to me because they don't know me, but I know them, and it just kind of hurts not like having that feeling of a deep connection, because like I know so much about them, and then inevitably realizing, oh shit, they feel like they don't know me, and that's why they're pulling away or like cutting me off. And yeah, so I hope this gave you a view a bit deeper into my brain. I hope to make more of these. I hope you'll come back for more of these. Since this is my first video, whatever, feel free to like or comment. Let me know if you have any questions or anything. I'll try to answer those. Feel free to DM me if you have my personal information. I might attach my Discord to the, what's it called, my YouTube channel and stuff like that. If someone else I don't know finds this video somehow and wants to join and ask me questions there, DM me privately, or just make a YouTube comment and I'll reply to it there. If you enjoyed it, please like it, and so I know I'll have more incentive to want to post these, because I feel like I'm definitely going to do more of these for myself in general. If you enjoyed it and want me to post more of them, or you have any questions and want me to make a video about something and get my opinions on them, I'll definitely do that as well. Just leave me a comment or message me and I'll get to it. But yeah, that felt good. That felt good to get out. That definitely felt good to get out. I feel like I've been saying bye for like 10-15 minutes now, so I'm just gonna dip. I appreciate you for watching. I appreciate you for listening. Like it if you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. Hope you have a great life. Bye.